Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Map Battle League show. I'm your host, Carp, and I'm joined today by Mr. Blue and Jake
Hello.
Lyons.
Hey there.
How are you two doing?
So.
Hmm.
But let's not get into too much details about that. But yeah, it could be better. But here we are.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited to record this.
We've just been through week 1 of the league, and let's just get straight into it with Division 1. As we could see, only one match over here didn't end up in a draw, just straight off the bat.
Yeah, no surprise, honestly. I mean, given that it was week one and the map priority was determined by the preseason performance, and the only reason these players are in Division One is because they played so well in the preseason. They all got really good choices of really top choices of what they wanted to play, and you'll see a lot of the maps are sort of home maps or at least areas that the players are likely very familiar with. So it makes sense that a lot of players are just winning their home map and losing their away map. Um, and yeah, but Blinky notably with the only win over Shumi, and even then, the Danish Islands map was like what a 45-point difference. So that very nearly ended with the draw as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing only two of the players actually picked up bonus points in these matches. So, um, really, that home field advantage gave everyone like decisive wins on their maps. Um, Paulinho and Shumi just coming close to either pulling a win or, in Shumi's case, a draw. Really. But we're also seeing a lot of people pull perfect scores. There's me on the Netherlands, Boxer and Paulinho both with perfect scores on their respective maps. Then there's Barry in Wyoming and Xander in in Senegal. That's actually an interesting result. Xander and Kodiak won on their opponents' maps.
Very
Yeah,
interesting to see that is actually happening as well. Yeah, that's one of the nice features of this competition. That yeah, most people they tend to win on their home map, but you can see also later on in the competition that some people actually yeah managed to lose on their own map, but then their opponent won as well on their home map. So that is quite interesting to see. And yeah, based looking at this result that we see here right now, um, I would say that Paulinho would probably be the winner of the week because he managed to get a draw, a perfect score, and a bonus point. So that is quite good.
Yeah, and pulling that off against Boxer as well, who's, fresh off of that Reddit League
Yeah,
win.
it's not like the first person that you come across is like a nobody. It's just the current Red League champion. So yeah, he did really well.
Yeah. Uh, let's move on to how the standings have turned out after week 1. As I mentioned before, only one game didn't end in a draw, but Shumi's actually not in last place, even with that loss. That bonus point keeping him out of last spot.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's still early on, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. It doesn't say anything here. Yeah, bonus point is helping as well, so that is yeah one of the features of the game. So he deserved it, and he's there. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
and like Mr. Blue mentioned, it makes sense to say that Paulinho is sort of the winner of the week with such a good performance against Boxa, and it shows in his position with that bonus point, the only one with 2 points. And then yeah, M the Basement with an unfortunate start just based on his score difference. Because I don't he had to play in Iowa, and I don't think he particularly enjoyed that, which I don't think many players would. But yeah,
Yeah, a lot of the states that we have seem to be like out in the Midwest, where it's just rural, and I don't think many players enjoy that, especially those not from the US.
Even as an American, I don't enjoy them either. So
yeah,
yeah.
Same over here. I've never been good at the US, and now that I live here, I want to become better at it, but that's just not happening. Yeah, not much to say about the standings, but just a weekend, and let's move on to the fixtures for next week. We have Soviet Spy going for Busan up against M the Basement in Belgium. I don't think there was a Dutch map since he seems to really want to play one. But he's gone for Belgium, just next door. And there's Paulinho going for 5 random countries, I believe? Or was this the 5 countries of his choice?
This was the 5 countries of his choice, indeed, yeah.
Okay. And those are Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Slovakia. All countries around his home country. And Xander has gone for 5 urban locations in Denmark. Next up, we've got Moist Flubber on Wawa, which is definitely one of the more interesting thematic maps we've got going. And he's going up against Kodiak in Galway, which I believe was... Where's this gone? Yeah, just a random pick for Kodiak there. Next up, there's Orpheus in Spain, going up against Sheldon Wong in the Great Basin Desert. Will Sheldon have the home field advantage here? We'll have to see. Then there's Shumi on African coasts, something that we probably could have expected. And then there's Barry in Orenburg. That's a surprising pick, if I've ever seen one. Then there's Boxer in Hessen, which is basically just a Frankfurt map, and I think it's his home city, if I'm not mistaken. And it's going up against Solo Sensei in Jordan for 5 urban locations, which is again a random pick. And then Blinky with the home field advantage in France. It's going up against me with Wellington. So any matches over here did you predict?
No, that's an interesting pick. Why did you choose Wellington?
I was pressed for time. I submitted my map picks literally at the deadline, and I just put stuff in random order. To be honest, I think I confused it for Christchurch, which I do know fairly well, and I just went for it.
I see.
Yeah.
Actually, the pick of Barry was also a random pick, by the way, so that makes sense. Other than that, yeah, Basement going for Belgium. I don't think that is surprising here. Boxa is not from Frankfurt, but well, I'm not gonna tell where he's from, but definitely not from Frankfurt. So, but still, he will be expecting to do good on that map for sure. Orpheus in Spain, I suppose that he will do as well. Okay, to be honest. And yeah, for the rest, yeah.
I'm not looking.
A lot of interesting choices, but also a lot of expected choices. Like the Wawa map was very popular apparently, so that is. I didn't know what it was beforehand, but it's like a chain of a store, or what is it actually? I don't even know. But it's like in mostly in Philadelphia, but it seems like there's also a few in other states. So yeah, but people seem to be aware of that area a lot apparently, and yeah, it was a very popular map.
Yeah, I'd never heard of WoW going in, but I looked it up and it was like, well, it's a US map, so may as well put it on my list somewhere. And yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if we got a fair few more draws this week, but it's a little bit less clear given that there were the 3 random maps, and I think that trend will probably continue because I think a fair few players forgot to make their picks for week 2. So there might be a little bit more variability in how the matches go with players playing maps that they didn't necessarily want. And yeah, good luck against Blinky. That's certainly not going to be easy, but hopefully you can play well in Wellington, because he's probably not going to be easy to beat in France. But
Yeah, I've never been great at France, so I've lost all hope for that. But yeah, I think week 2 in particular has a lot of random map picks because people didn't know they had to submit maps for it, I think.
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
There was this situation where we had to submit the maps for week 1 and week 2 at the same time, and it was clearly written, but apparently some people did not see it or did not understand how it was working, and therefore there are indeed quite some maps for week 2 that are randomly assigned. But it is what it is, and people have to deal with it.
Yeah. I'm starting to think maybe I should have gone for the Wawa map this week though, but because it is basically 90% locations around like Philadelphia, which I know pretty well, so that's unfortunate. Now I'm gonna have to go up against Blinky and Wellington, which I'm
A little bit too late, mate.
yep. Anyways, on to Division 2 over here, where we are seeing actually 3 matches ending in wins and 4 in draws, sort of almost the opposite of Division 1, I'd say. But over here, just 2 bonus points for Danny Blonde and Dryfuck Bunked, who are barely 20 points away from their opponents on these maps. Yet again, we're also seeing Madone and Diesel's game, then Danny Blondes versus Zertomo, ending in each player winning on their opponent's map. So,
yeah, that's very interesting to see, and that is what what I highlighted in the previous division as well. That indeed seemed to happen, and in a way that's a good thing as well, of course, so that it's not always given that someone wins their home map. So that is nice to see. We do see a purple score of Drijfbak here, which is good. And Weather coming very close as well. What else do we have? Brian also very close to a perfect score. And Gabriel almost twice, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, just 11 points off of 2 perfect scores. But he does pick up a win against his fellow Frenchman, Hexal. So, the first French derby, if you will. Close to one.
Really impressive from Gabriel. I don't think I've heard of him. I'm not sure he's in Reddit League, but yeah, really just played super well there. Same with Dryfuck Punkt, only 31 points off of a perfect 50,000, and I'd say a deserved bonus point there. But yeah, interesting to see the variability here. I think generally as we go further down the divisions, we'll get a lot more sort of not only wins and losses, but players losing on their home maps, winning on their away maps, just sort of more of that, since of course the lower division players are generally playing maps that they're a little bit less comfortable with.
Yeah. I believe maps in lower divisions were still some of the players' top picks, but especially in week 1 with players in the lower divisions picking maps later, they could definitely end up with some maps they wouldn't like, or that was slightly lower down on their map preferences.
Yeah, but I mean, as we said before, like in week 2, a lot of people did not. This is still the week 1 results, of course, but even in week 1, a lot of people were having having submissions that were already their choice, and even though they were late in the ranking, they still got something from their top 5 or top 8 or something like that. So most people that had submitted something had something that was on their list.
This is how the tables have turned turned out after week 1. Gabriel, Trichter, and WTF with their wins at the top of the table. Hexalt, Ollie, and Schluty with their losses at the bottom. But again, this is week 1. Everything's still left to play for. Dryfuckpunkt and Danny Blondes, the only ones on 2 points with their bonus points as well. But especially I'm seeing Trichter and WTF with massive score differentials against their opponents.
True, yeah, and that is something that maybe at some point will become important. But yeah, that is for much later in the season, because the score differential is not the first tiebreaker. That is perfect scores, which I do not see here in your standings. So maybe you should add that as well.
That's the aces column.
Oh, the aces. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense actually. Because it would be strange if there's only one ace or 2 aces in the whole competition. But no, okay, that makes sense indeed. Yeah, no, yeah, that is important, I guess, at some point. So Trichter and WTF there with a good start. But Gabriel, as we have seen, with 2 almost perfect scores, obviously also one of the winners of the week here. Yeah, and for the rest, I mean, like if you're off with a good start is better than off with a loss, of course. But even the guys with a loss are not totally lost yet, of course, and they're like just behind everyone else. And yeah, if they recover from that, then that loss is going to be away soon.
And something important to note, I think, with Trichter, I think he's a player who prefers no moving, panning, zooming if he has the choice. And I think that maybe we'll see this sort of trend continue with him getting high score differences, because I'm guessing generally with those maps that the overall scores of players are going to be lower. But so there's sort of more potential for a high score difference. But at the same time, I think we might see him getting fewer aces than other players, because I think most of those no moving or NMPC maps are not going to have a lot of opportunities for 25Ks.
Yeah, but these two were from moving maps, though.
That's true. I think. Well, yeah, I think his next maybe.
But I do agree with your thoughts there, that indeed people that tend to go for no moving maps, they might not get the perfect score, but they might get a good score differential there.
Yeah, and I think his next couple maps are not moving. So yeah, we'll see if that continues.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's like an interesting strategy play. Do you want to sort of prioritize your score differential, or do you want to prioritize your perfect scores? And I think that's something we're going to see with you too, Jake.
Yeah, but yeah, we might. We almost certainly will. Yeah.
You can also go for both, like Jake.
On to the fixtures for week 2. We've got Pierre going up against Zotomo. Pierre's on the Geodetective World, while Zotomo is going for the home advantage with 5 urban locations in Japan. Wurdock, meanwhile, is going for 5 urban locations in Russia. And Trichter's on Curves of the World, a map I hadn't heard of before this. Then there's Brian with one of the Civilization Alphabet maps. WTF is going for the home advantage again with Yugoslavia. Schluty is in Lesotho. Diesel in Uganda. We've got an African matchup here. Danny Blondes with top 100 world cities by population. Sort of similar to, I think, Wurdock's match from week 1. And then he's going up against Hexalt in Singapore, which both of them would be familiar with from one of the last weeks of Reddit League, I believe. Then there's TGP Madone on an Unusual World, going up against Gabriel and Réunion. Technically a home map, but it remains to be seen how that's going to pan out. Ollie is in Reykjavik again, a repeat map from week 1. And Dryfuckpunkt is in Liège in Belgium.
technically not a repeat map because that the other one was a choice of Eltingwook.
Right.
So a city in Iceland of your choice, and this is just the city in Iceland, Reykjavik. But yeah, it does appear 2 times in 2 weeks, indeed. African like two African maps against each other, like with two different players. This is an interesting matchup there. Curves of the World is actually a map created by Drijfakpunkt, who was in this division as well. So that is quite interesting to see that one of his opponents took that map. Yeah, and indeed, here again we do see people going for maps that they are familiar with in their area. I guess Gabriel was not from Réunion, but indeed it will still help him because it's all in French and everything, and it's not that difficult to learn Réunion in general anyway. So I think that he will definitely have an advantage there. Yeah, so it is again an interesting matchup, and it will be interesting to see indeed if people will start to will continue to pick maps that they feel comfortable with, or that they want to find out maps what their opponents are weak at, because that is something that until now I don't think we have seen already.
Yeah.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, sure. I'm interested to see how Zatomo does on the Japan map. He sort of he had a pretty bad time in Japan in Reddit League, which was a bit of a surprise, and I'm wondering if he's going to be able to bounce back. I don't know if he's more confident playing in cities versus rural, assuming he can read everything. Then he might be at a considerable advantage here. We'll see if he can bounce back. And yeah,
Quite
Trichter.
surprised of his result there as well, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Trichter's, yeah, I'm pretty sure his map is no moving. So I think, again, it should be interesting to see if maybe like he might lose by a close margin in the Russia map and then win by a lot in the Curves map and boost his score difference. But we'll see about that. And then, yeah, another thing I'm interested to see is that if Ollie can 25k Reykjavik like I did last week, because it's sort of a fun and interesting map to play. Well, I guess I'll get into this more when we talk about my match, but it's definitely 25kable. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting why Dryfuck didn't pick his own map. Maybe he's not a fan of the
It was no
non-moving.
moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That might do it. Yeah.
And he might not be good at curves. He just like to make the map.
And Zotimo also might actually do well at this, especially if Kyoto features in his seed. Anyways, let's move on to Division 3. That's your division, Jake. And we can see the first sort of tied game in Reykjavik. Both of you getting a perfect score, but Altenburg winning on time difference by about 2.5 minutes, I believe. But Jake, you still pick up a bonus point there. You're seeing more perfect scores with Armand's game against Max. But other than that, no perfect scores anywhere else. We've got 3 wins, actually 4 wins. These against wins against Ottawa, and Seolso, Plucky, and Faraban each win against Soundbite, Lunacy, and Seppo. Of whom only Seppo picks up a bonus point in a very low scoring match down there on an unusual world.
Yes, indeed. That we can see that seed caused quite some trouble. I think that was an NMPZ seed, so that makes, of course, sense that it's lower. But the scores got really close to each other, and yeah, Seppo picked up a bonus point there. And indeed, like the match between Jake and Altenwook was very interesting. Because of the fact that it's a purple score on both sides. And I have seen Jake's video, and he was like really hoping to get close to the time, and then there was like one round, and he was like, "Oh no, this is a suburb," and by that time he knew that it was not going to happen, but he still had to fight for the 25k, and he did. So well done to him.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, there was one of the rounds where Altingbook spawned and immediately was like, "Oh, my friend lives here." I was like, "Oh, well, this is what I'm up against. This is just great." But to be honest, I was never expecting to be able to win that leg, but I was just happy to be able to get the perfect score and the bonus point. But yeah, I found that Reykjavik is quite a fun city to play, and I'm glad it was not Pitești, Romania, because I guarantee I would not have 25k'd that. Um, and yeah, as for the other map, it's just one that I've played and practiced a lot at this point, and not only do I know the locations well, but I also know that sort of where the map maker tends to put locations. So like even if I haven't seen one, I can sort of be like, okay, these are like sort of the common places where he likes to put the locations. Anyway, it's a map I know well, so it's a map I'm going to keep choosing until somebody takes it from me, I guess.
Yeah, you've got it 3 weeks in a row right now.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, what we also have to mention here is because it's a little bit different than in the Reddit League, is that here we do not have a bonus point for 25k, but the moment that you have a 25k, you know that you are at least guaranteed a bonus point. So if you don't win the map, then you have a bonus point. If you do win the map, then you might have then you actually win. So or you can still have a draw, of course, but then you I have to say that correctly. Like if you're winning the map, then of course you might not have the bonus point. But if you have a 25k, then you know that even if you lose, you will still have the bonus point.
Here's how the standings have turned out. We've got 4 wins over here: Teaser, Seolfer, Plucky, and Farban. And Seppo, Lunacy, Soundbite, and Ottawa with losses this week. Other than that, we're really seeing Teaser and you, Jake, with massive score differentials against your opponents. Probably due to the non-moving map. Actually, definitely due to the non-moving map in your case.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I think if I keep getting this map, I think my score difference will keep getting pretty big. But it's the same trade-off I mentioned before. Like I did get the ace in Reykjavik, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna 25k official in Common World. It's just almost all seeds on that map are pretty much impossible to 25k. So again, it's that sort of same trade-off. I don't expect that I'll be getting a ton of 25ks this season if I sort of keep with the strategy I currently have.
Yeah, but actually, one thing we could start to see is players who go up against opponents on non-moving maps could actually have the score differential hurt quite a bit, which might be some strategic tactics being undertaken right there to keep people lower on the scoreboards.
Yeah, for sure. It would be interesting. Maybe in a certain week, if I notice my opponent has quite a high score difference or something, I could maybe even intentionally pick a no moving map or something to try and hurt that.
Yeah.
Sort of a lot of strategy that goes into this.
On to the fixtures for week 2. We've got Teaser going with a home map in Wisconsin. Like I mentioned, a lot of these seem to be states out Midwest. And the 59 Soundbart, his opponent, is in South America, which is a random pick. Farban and Armand, another French matchup. Both going with urban maps. Farban is going with 5 urban locations in Cambodia. And Armand is in Mypop in Russia. I'm definitely butchering that name. Jake, you're
Very interesting choice, isn't it?
yeah. And that's not even a random pick actually. So Armand is confident. Jake, you're back with an official Uncommon World. Like I mentioned, 3 weeks in a row. you're gonna get a fair bit of practice with this. And then you're going up against Seppo in Central Europe. Then the Seolfer home advantage in Germany, going up against Nakiro on a still world, which is NMPC. And Altenburg is in Daegu in South Korea, going up against Lunacy Echo on an improved world, which is a moving map. Ottawa is in Argentina, going up against Max in southwestern Australia. Is that like South Australia, but the western bit of it, or like the southern bit of Western Australia?
I would guess the southern bit of Western Australia, but
Okay,
I can't be sure.
that would do it.
I think so too. Yeah.
Laban Greb is in Mazowiecki, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then Plucky's got Places of Worship as his map.
We're definitely seeing a lot of maps here that are sort of probably less familiar to the players, just since they're not quite getting their first choices anymore, for sure. So yeah, I'd expect there to be a little bit more variability in the results at this point. Yeah, I'm excited to be sticking with this map, I suppose. I hope I can continue performing. Central Europe, I don't expect will be easy, and I'm assuming he'll be quite good at it, but I'll put some practice in and I'll do the best I can. And yeah, a lot of these are interesting. A lot of sort of matches that I just don't know where they'll go. Like Firebond versus Armand, I have no idea like how that's gonna go. How good these players are at these maps. So
yeah, these could really go either way, especially with Laban Greb versus Plucky, both of them on random maps.
Yeah, what we see here, because you said that about the choices, but basically here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that did not submit anything at all, and yeah, all the other ones, they got their first, second, or third choice map. So
okay, so that explains it a bit.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think in a few cases you could reasonably predict the winners, but definitely not in every map. So yeah, on to Division 4. We've got, what's that? 4 wins over here, and only one perfect score in the entire division. That's Edward in Sylhet, which was a random pick.
and this was quite amazing, because Edward did not submit anything, and he was awarded with Ciliat and Vietnam, and he was like, oh no, this is gonna be so terrible. And then well, yeah, he was like, okay, but I have to train, I have to make sure that I'm gonna do this, and look what he did. He got one of the highest scores of all divisions, and he's gonna end up in really high in the map choosing order for week 3. So yeah, that is what training can do.
Yeah, I think he ended up that 5th on the weekly order. So that practice really paying its dividends there, especially on maps he wasn't very happy about. Other than
Yeah,
that,
and we have to also mention that he actually tried to re-qualify for the Reddit League after falling out in the previous season, and he did not manage to do that. So, given that fact, this is that he ends up in Division 4 here, plus he is giving this sort of performance that shows that he is really up for it and doing his best.
yeah, over here we're seeing Paranoid with massive wins over Connor on both of the maps. You could sort of see that in Edward's match as well. But then relatively Sepkius, sorry, not Sepkius, Clemens and Jack with sort of narrow wins over their opponents. there.
Yeah, Clemens really impressive from him as well.
Just
Pretty
missing
close to
the
25,000 twice.
just
And he's
missing
also
it
a player who
by.
actually dropped out of the Reddit League, huh? So that is also keeping in mind that
Ah,
these
yeah.
players they
Mm.
seem to seem to do well in this division so far.
Well, I think Edward I think was in Division 4 with me, so I want to say he just dropped to Division 5 in Reddit League, but
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I
mm,
think you're right.
but yeah, Pashtetley is probably a little frustrated. He didn't play badly by any means. He had pretty solid scores, but just couldn't keep up. And then another interesting, pretty close game between Jack and Ordboka on the Still World. Presumably, again, it was an MPZ or at least no moving, but that's another one that almost even ended up with a bonus point um, despite the low scores.
That's interesting to see as well, like because we just mentioned that okay, it's probably not going to happen a lot, but if the locations make you think the same, then you still
mm.
go for the same area, and that might just be the case indeed.
Yeah, that was an NMPC, so that will explain the low scores, of course. But also no bonus points here. All the
Was
games
wasn't
were.
the match between Me and Renata not the closest match of the whole week from all divisions?
Oh, right. That was the closest, about 137 points apart overall, but not quite enough to get in either of them the bonus. As for the standings, we've got the 4 winners at the top, the 4 losers at the bottom. Again, doesn't really matter all that much right now. But we see Paranoid got a massive score differential, as has Edward with some pretty hefty wins.
We
On
can just see that Edward is now first because of the perfect score, whereas
that too.
Paranoid has a better high score, but is in second place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Edward plays for the rest of the season, just given how impressive his performance was in Week 1, because he's one of the players in this division I would have expected to struggle a little bit more just based on past Reddit League performance. But who knows? Maybe he'll surprise everyone.
Yeah, he could be a hidden gem over here. As for the fixtures for week 2, we've got Bestetli in Switzerland, with urban locations, which, to be honest, I've always found pretty annoying to play. Anyways, Renata is on the Tagus River. Not sure where that one is, actually.
Portugal and Spain, I think.
Portugal and Spain, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Michael is on an NPC world, and Ortboka is on an AI-made world map. Which, I would have thought those are random picks, but apparently not. Jack is going with a home map in Austria, and Bitlympics is in Aqaba. Okay, that's a random pick. We'll see how that turns out. Connor is in North Dakota, and he's going up against Sepkiest in Luxembourg. Actually, just Luxembourg City. But that's another home map right there. Same case for Hugo in Temuco. And then Edwards going with 5 urban locations in Botswana, which is a random pick again. Maybe after that random pick for Stillhead, he's just gonna keep going with those. Maybe the luck will play out well for him. Clemens is on Islands of the World, up against Paranoid Android in Curacao. And Calamities in 5 urban locations in Kyrgyzstan. And Hidikme is on a photosphere world, which is misspelled here for some reason. So yeah, any matchups that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, You said Sepp his Luxembourg map is not a home map, but he does have the flag, of course. But it was also, I think, his main pick. So that is definitely something that I'm expecting him to do well on. What I'm really interesting to see, because Edward did so well on the Siliad map, which is a city map. So what I'm really interested in to see is to see how he does on Temuco against someone in his home, well, home country at least. I'm not really sure if Hugo is from Temuco, but either way, that's going to be a very interesting matchup. And then, yeah, regardless of what's going to happen in Botswana, because I do not know how good Edward and Hugo are in there, even though this was a map also in the Reddit League, by the way, but I forgot how they did there. And then Calamity, for instance, has also Kyrgyzstan, which is something that we had in Reddit League a few years ago. So he still has that in his mind as well, and he knows that he can do well on there. But Calamity on the Photosphere World, I'm not so sure about that one.
Yeah, I know that Calamity, I think, is less fond of no moving stuff, but at the same time, I think Photosphere World is a map that's sort of handpicked to actually be pinpointable rather than just being impossible. So that might be a little more forgiving for him, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think about Edward. Given that he did well in both really urban maps last week, I think Vietnam is pretty much only got coverage in cities. So this really could be just him being really good at urban maps, and that could play out well for him in this matchup, given that both these matches are urban maps again.
Okay, you know what? I take it back. I thought Photosphere World was no moving, but it's NMPZ, so I think Calamity is going to be unhappy with that.
Oh,
but,
okay, yeah.
but we'll see how he plays.
Other than that, Jack in Austria is probably gonna do really well. On to Division 5A. We unfortunately see our first yellow card right here on week 1. Radox picks up the win against Bear the Polyglot on that, with some pretty decent scores either way. There's only one perfect score over here, Rafa on a Photosphere World against Curtis, who didn't really take too well to that map.
Yeah, that's quite interesting to see, isn't it? What I know that Rafa did really a lot of effort to learn that map, for instance, and he did yeah, pretty much learn every of the locations that is on the map. Yeah, that is something that is in his favor, and yeah, he did it really quick as well. So he just saw the picture, zoomed into the right place, and got a 25k. Whereas Curtis indeed probably did not train for the map and just went with it the way it came, and yeah, that's resulting in a lot of a big point difference here. Yeah, Bear the Polyglot, unfortunately that he didn't play. I still haven't heard from him as of today, so I'm afraid that he might be the first player to drop out. What will happen is that he needs to, like the second time that he doesn't play, he will lose instantly, because now he still had 24 hours to reply to me, which he didn't do. And the third time that something like that happens, he will be dropped out. And at the moment, we do have a few players actually on standby that would like to jump in that case. So then one of those players will probably take over from him.
GB actually got pretty close to a perfect score, just 2 points off on Civilization Alphabet there, and Drew versus M. Wickholm, just a really low-scoring map in Bulgaria. That were an urban map.
Yeah, that's surprising to me. Seems with a moving urban map that you would end up with higher scores than that. I
actually, I think they might be, the scores might be swapped.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Okay.
No, I think it was really low in Bulgaria, which was a handpick map by myself.
Oh.
So I'm also surprised to see that low score. But I guess they both either didn't know how to read Cyrillic, or yeah, they just did not train enough for that.
Yeah, I just opened up the seed and both of them only uh, got close to location on one of the rounds.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah, that says enough.
yeah, other than that,
Because
they really
the
struggled.
locations were not that difficult, to be honest. So
Hmm.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I can tell
And
you right now, at least 3 of the locations were pinpointable. Biquette's map is 5 urban locations in Greece.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, then that's a surprisingly low score for that map as well.
Hmm.
But I suppose
Uh,
maybe if you can't read Greek, you're not gonna have a good time there either.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it is a pretty confusing script, to be honest. If you know Cyrillic, it helps, but uh, yeah,
From my experience, I can tell you that it doesn't help very much, but
no. Okay.
but yeah, it is also for me personally one of the weaker areas where I still definitely need to improve. So that is indeed something that I want to do uh, for the next competition that me and Jake are in. So that is
Hmm.
on the planning, and hopefully that's gonna work out. But we have to see.
Hmm. Oh, there we have the standings for week 1. Here we have 5 games ending in wins. I think that's the most of any division so far. Um,
Definitely so far, yeah.
yeah,
I think also in total, but I'm not sure what 5B is gonna be yet. But
yeah. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, only one ace, and that's Rafa, who takes the top spot on the table for the moment. But and it's worth noting, Radox's score difference is only that great because Bear unfortunately missed this week. So
oh, you
uh,
got some wrong flags here, mate.
Gonna say that the
oh
flags are a
oh
little
okay
off
okay
on this one.
okay, yeah, I guess I forgot to change those as
Radox
well.
has moved to Finland, but
Okay. Yeah, luckily I can like
I think
change all of these
all of them are
afterwards.
wrong. I think only Rafa is correct.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I can change these after the fact anyways.
and it is I am sort of wondering if since Radox got the extra score difference from the match against the player who didn't play, but if that player gets replaced, like do the future players who play against the replacement, I mean, they just get like regular score differences or whatever. So do the 2 people who play against Bear in the first 2 weeks just sort of get a little bit of a boost on score differences that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other players
that
won't
is
get?
the case indeed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that is a little bit what you get from this sort of situation. But I think it's nicer that we will have someone to actually play the games rather than that you win every game by
I agree.
by nothing else and by not playing at all. I don't think that is nice. So if there is an opportunity to have someone replaced, I will definitely do it.
Yeah, I prefer this system as well.
On to the fixtures for week 2. We've got okay, the maps are correct over here. We've got Biquet on Indonesian islands, up against Ping Vin. Biquet's map, not actually his own pick, but the pick of the player he replaced. So he may not be too happy with that, but we'll see about it. Uh, then there's Noisel in County Dublin, up against GB on an NPC world. Um, Sausage Wipe with some with a home map in the Ural Mountains. Actually, I think that's just an urban map of cities in the Ural area. And Druve is in the Palestine. Random pick actually for him. Timon with Civilization Alphabet letter L up against Rafa on a coastal world, which Am I reading that right? Was the Coastal World really his last pick?
Let me have a quick look at that. Just a moment. Then it was indeed his 20th pick.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that then that means that all the other maps that he had chosen were already taken by other players. In
Hmm.
I don't remember what position he was in.
Right. Then we've got Emwickholm in the United Kingdom up against Radox on Bridges of the World. And then there's Curtis on the world's biggest cities. Don't know how that differs from the other map that's, I think, in Division 2 that we saw. Bear the Polyglot, assuming he plays this week, is going to be in Miskolc in Hungary. And then Lord Pepsi is in the Balkans, home field advantage there. And Finn's on Eastern Europe.
Yeah, so Rafa has the 74th position, so it's not so strange that the 20 maps that he selected were already chosen, and then he ended up with his 20th choice.
It'll be interesting to see how Rafa plays now that he doesn't have Photosphere World. See if he's able to perform on the world map that wasn't very high up his list.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have here? So yeah, indeed, like still some people with home advantage, like Pingvin, for instance, the Sausage Wipe as well. The Radox choosing a world map that is easy to pinpoint. It's interesting to see that as well, knowing that he is not so good at pinpointing in general. So yeah, well done. And Lord Pepsi in the Balkans, even though that he was like 83rd or 84th in the ranking. So good for him. And Eastern Europe, so he has got a double home map actually.
Let's move on to Division 5B. We've got 4 wins over here. So yeah, Division 5A had the most wins for this week. And again, only one perfect score over here. Jean Harrison in Pitesti. I think this one's actually Pitesti.
Yeah, again, another proof of having good training, because it was not his own map; it was the map of his opponent, and just training can get you there. Simple as that. And yeah, he did really well. Bombadil really well with 224Ks. So that is those are the two really standing out from this division so far.
Bakelok versus Ankomako, both of those maps were really low scoring, actually.
They were both, yeah, absolutely. Well, one of them was NMPZ, of course, so that makes
Right.
sense. And Australia moving maybe very difficult from time to time. So I can't remember the actual locations of this map, but it's just clear that they have been struggling with that map for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess in Australia it just depends on whether you're in the middle of the outback or not.
I'm surprised to see Guelo Wizard, I guess, this low in the divisions, but starting it off with a win, and I think he's probably a player I'd expect to
Yeah, I
perform well
consider him
this
to be
season.
one of the favorites of this division because he
And
did do really well in Reddit League. So
yeah,
yeah, he had a bit unfortunate preseason, but yeah, giving his knowledge and his standards in general, I do expect him to be doing quite well in this division.
and then Bombadil is another one that's he's in Reddit League, and I think he's a pretty active player, so definitely someone to watch out for, especially with this strong performance in week one.
Yeah. And I think Jean Harrison is one of those surprise candidates here for the top spot on the table. We'll have to see over the rest of the season. But starting off with a perfect score, he's got some pressure on him to keep that up.
Certainly, yeah. I don't know him well, but yeah, definitely a performance that catches my eye, and yeah, we'll see if he can keep it up.
The standings for this week, as usual, it's only week 1. We'll have to see how this pans out. And once again, like with the last division, Jen Harrison's perfect score propels him to the top of the table for now. But I think over here we've generally got more consistent score differences than we have seen in other divisions. Not many close games, really.
No, that's true. So maybe that means that indeed the differences here are maybe a bit larger than in the other divisions. Than even comparison to Division 5A. But yeah, that is something that we have to see later throughout the season. But yeah, we can definitely see that here. And yeah, let's see if that continues in the other upcoming weeks. Or that things will get back to yeah, closer to zeros, let's say. So yeah.
Yeah, and right now we can see of the 5 Frenchmen in this division, 3 of them not off to such a great start. So yeah, we'll have to see how they measure up against the fellow countrymen.
Yeah, it's still quite early, but I wouldn't be surprised if a fair few of these players who are currently at the top of the table stay pretty close to the top of the table because they're sort of more familiar names than most of the guys at the bottom.
Right.
Except Jean Hérisson. Again, I don't know him well at all, but who knows?
Uh, and finally, we've got the fixtures for week 2. Um, we've got Arca on just a generic intersection guess a map. And going up against Dad City on It's a Small World After All. Mr. Blue, you might know what that entails more than I do.
Well, it's a reference to the Disney song, isn't it? So
Right.
and it's just another world map. It actually contains a lot of locations where I have been personally in my life. So that is what this map in general shows, but it also has some other locations in it.
Yeah, okay. Jagger is on an urban world, up against Chakapaka on British territories. And then we've got Laton on the greater region of Luxembourg, which I have to say is a lot bigger than I thought it was. And then he's going up against Hulskopf on coastal cities with over 100,000 population. Kiribati for Life is in New Zealand, up against Ankomako in Jakarta, which he might be pretty strong at. We'll have to see. Valentin Rebia is in Namur, I think. I'm not sure how you pronounce that one. And then Wicklock's gone with the Welsh district of Monmouthshire. So yeah, probably not exactly the home advantage, but definitely something that could play into Wicklock's hands there. Guala Wizard is in Bhutan, which is going to be pretty tough for both him and Jenna Harrison, who has gone for the Equator. And then there's Bombadil in the Republic of Ireland, and then Afi is in Daegu.
Yeah, not so sure too much on what to say with this division. There's so many maps that seem to be sort of maybe unfamiliar to the players, and I'm unfamiliar with the players. So many of these matches, I have no idea how they're going to go.
Yeah, I think this division is very open at the moment. As we said before, Guelo Wizard is probably the favorite to maybe even win this division. But then there's two quite difficult maps for him and Jern, who are like the top of the league at the moment with the two of them. So that is an interesting matchup. Yeah, and for the rest, we have to see how things will go. Wakelock indeed with a sort of home advantage, and Ankomako as well. Like when it comes to the area, like he's from Malaysia, but you know Jakarta is not too far away from there, so that was for sure a pick for that reason. Um, yeah, we have to see how things will play out.
Yeah, and in comparison, this division is sort of a throw up. I'd say it's anyone's guess where all the matches would go. But yeah, the Guala Wizard versus Jalen Harrison. We've got the two people at the top of the table battling out. So I think that's the one I'm looking most forward to most. Yeah, that's gonna do it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good week, everybody. Good luck in your performances, and then hopefully you'll be higher up the rankings next week.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
having me. Can't wait for the rest of the league to play out.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Jake.
thank you for coming on the show. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll be back next week